Okay, and with that, we are live. This is the STL Hat Trick St. Louis Cardinals podcast. I am your host, Steven McNeil, with Brian Swope tonight. Tonight, we will bring you coverage of the Chicago Cubs St. Louis Cardinals series, the return of Alex Reyes, the imminent return of Alex Reyes, a number of other hot topics, including the offense of the St. Louis Cardinals, the pitching of the St. Louis Cardinals. We'll cover everything that you need to know about the Cardinals going forward, and we'll look forward to the series in San Diego. Brian, I'm going to go ahead and send it off to you. What do you want to tell the people right now? What do you got working on?
Looking forward to this Cardinals team. I think moving forward, we got a pretty solid team, and really happy with what happened with the Cubs series. Disappointed we couldn't carry that on through to the next one, but I think the offense has some time to get it together. Hopefully they will. Just wrote a piece came out this week about how what we know after the month of April and what this team looks like, and I think that's pretty exciting. So yeah, we'll see how they do. I think they'll be good. I also came up with a piece of parenting advice. So for all of our listeners out there who are parents and have kids, I came up with this brilliant strategy from watching the Avengers Infinity War movie. And my kids, I have one that's a preteen, and they ask me for everything. The questions are nonstop. I mean, they're just incessantly asking for things. And so finally, I just started looking at them and saying, I am Groot. And I say it over and over again, and they stop asking me for things. So parents, there's my advice for you tonight. If your kids won't stop asking you for something, just start speaking Groot to them, and you will be fine.
That's good. For the listeners, I want to go ahead and apologize up front. Living a lot of technical difficulties on my part, missing a piece to my computer that allows me to use a microphone. So a little technical difficulties if the audio sucks. Now you know. So, Brian, I want to start things off. One of the hot topics that are going on right now, we had Alex Reyes make his, I guess, official return to pitching. I think he's been messing around down in extended spring training for the last month, and also did a simulated game or something of that nature last week where the numbers look, velocity looked good. What do you think Alex Reyes brings to this team? Where do you see him being utilized?
Well, I think for sure the obviously long-term outlook on Reyes is as a starter. And when we had an opportunity to sit down and talk with President of Baseball Operations, John Mozeliak, he was clear that they were intending on bringing Reyes back as a starter, which I think is the right move. The pitching has been solid for the most part. But when you look at Waino now has had, two stints on the DL already, early on in the season. And here recently, Luke Weaver's kind of struggled a little bit. And so you'd like to have that option, I think, for Reyes, if he's anything like the Reyes that he was prior to the Tommy John surgery. I think that's a guy that you can plug in to the rotation and really kind of be a guy to count on. It's kind of iffy, it's touch and go with guys that have TJ surgery. A lot of times it really takes them a couple of years to fully recover from the surgery. I mean, not everybody's a Lance Lynn who comes out the year after their surgery and pitches really well. Most guys are more like, a Patrick Corbin for Arizona, who we've watched. His first year in the league really came on, broke out, had a phenomenal year, and kind of struggled a little bit, had the Tommy John surgery, and it's been 2 or 3 seasons since then, and now he's finally putting it back together again. I think it depends on which Reyes we get. If we get one that's more akin to the Patrick Corbin right after the TJ surgery, maybe temper those expectations, pitch him out of the bullpen a little bit to let him get more acclimated to pitching again. But if that elbow's strong, if it's healthy, and if he looks anything close to, the guy that we saw before he went down with an injury, I think this is a very exciting young arm, live arm. The stuff is top notch. I mean, the velocity is good. At least it has been. We don't know what it's going to be right now. I think he begins his, if I remember right, he begins his rehab assignment. In fact, let me look at it. He'll be at High A Palm Beach apparently tonight.
He was there tonight.
Yeah.
He did well. So he started rehab assignment tonight in Palm Beach. Went 3 1/3, struck out 6. I believe the pitch count was 67. So threw 3 1/3. Only walked 1, and that was the final batter he faced. Command obviously is going to come, and control's obviously going to come as he gets acclimated and whatnot. But he was sitting 95 to 96 with the fastball, was touching at times as high as 98 to 99, which is fantastic. My goodness.
Yeah.
You add that to the rotation of the bullpen, I will take it. So that his velocity being there is a good sign. Obviously, you hope that as a starter, he's going to, obviously velocity is not everything as a starter. You want location and velocity at the same time. But I'm hopeful that he's sitting more 96 to 98 throughout a start. But obviously, this is just his first start back. So I would assume velocity and things will come as he gets more acclimated and knows his body and knows how his elbow is going to react and whatnot. Obviously, I would assume he's probably going to be a little gun shy for a little while. And so that might play an effect as well. But good things are on their way in the form of Reyes, and I cannot wait. I will always tell people that look, Reyes is by far the best talent on this team, even out of all of the players on the major league roster right now.
Right.
I don't think there's a single person on that team right now who has the raw talent that Alex Reyes possesses. And according to John Mozeliak, there's not been a single pitcher in the organization who's possessed that raw talent since Rick Ankiel. And that's really the only person that in John Mozeliak's time in the organization that he can compare Reyes to. So that's saying something. Rick Ankiel was very special. The product and result that we got out of Ankiel wasn't necessarily what we all hoped for, but you can't doubt the pure talent that Rick Ankiel possessed.
Yeah. So that's high praise too, if you think about it. Because we think of Ankiel's signature moment. There's really 2 of them. The meltdown in the playoffs, and then the two outfield assists in Colorado. But when Ankiel came up, and I remember watching him. I was in high school at the time. I was a senior, and I went to several baseball games that summer and got to watch Ankiel pitch live on a couple of occasions. And he was just incredible. I mean, phenomenal as a pitcher. And he's got a new book out about his struggles and about his journey that I'm dying to get my hands on. I can't wait to get a hold of that and read it. Hopefully write a piece about it. Somewhere down the line as well. But to say all that is to say that there was so much raw talent with Ankiel, and he really did over a full season put it together, and it was incredible. I mean, the guy was as close to lights out as you could be as a rookie, and he was just phenomenal. Reyes possesses that kind of raw talent, and the key for him is can he be strong? Because I think that's where Ankiel really faltered, was when the trouble started to come mentally. He couldn't wrap his mind around it, couldn't figure it out, and started experiencing the yips that some guys experience, and they just can't, for whatever reason, can't do it anymore. And we laugh about it, but like Lester, who can't throw the ball to first base. Yeah, it happens to guys, and there's no real explanation for it. But with Reyes, if he can keep his head solid, the stuff's there. It's unquestionable. I mean, to me, he is hands down not just the best prospect in our system, but the best pitching prospect in all of baseball. I don't think there's anybody even close right now as far as pitching, and and like you said, control is going to be an issue. It's an issue with guys coming back from Tommy John, which maybe putting him in the bullpen at first helps that, because we've seen with Hicks, him being in the bullpen, the control at first wasn't really there. He's gotten better. Had a little bit of hiccup there a few games ago, but his stuff plays up in the bullpen. And when you don't have that much control, you're only facing, a few guys. You can get through it like that. You can't do that and be a starter. If the control's not there as a starter, you're going to get killed. It's just going to bite you.
Right.
But if the control's there, if the stuff is still there, which it sounds like it is, then you're talking about a guy who immediately you plug into this rotation and is, a front of the rotation starter. At least as good as Michaelis to start. And when he's at his best, I mean, this kid may even be better than Carlos. And I love Carlos Martinez, but this kid has better stuff, and may in fact be a better pitcher down the road.
Yeah, and when you think about, like I was talking about Mosaic's comments about Reyes, and he said this a couple of years ago at the Blogger event, I believe 2 or 3 years ago, and so that was it will always stick with me what he said. And so when you put that into context, that's Reyes is better than Carlos. He's better than Wainwright. He's better than Flaherty. Obviously, he's better than Weaver. He's better than Shelby Miller. He's better than all of these guys that have come up through the Cardinal system. And the one that stands out to me is not only Ankiel but Wainwright, and how much of a prospect Wainwright was, and how everybody looks back at that JD Drew deal, and how the Cardinals just absolutely fleeced the Braves by getting Wainwright out of that deal.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, as big of a prospect as Wainwright was, and as great as Wainwright was in his heyday, not looking at the Wainwright that we have now, but when Wainwright was in his heyday and he was the automatic 7 to 8 innings, 10 plus strikeouts practically every time. And I'll be honest, and if Wainwright doesn't have the injuries that he's had in his career, he's a Hall of Famer. I don't care what you say. You add another 100 wins to his win total, that he probably lost out via injuries, and the fact that he's had this decline mostly due to an injury. Maybe I'm overstepping it with 100 wins, but you add another 2 to 3 dominant seasons in his prime, and in my opinion, there's no question he's a Hall of Famer. But he's not. So Reyes, the potential that Reyes has is absolutely phenomenal. And I cannot wait. Like, I'm pretty giddy. Like, I was hoping there was going to be a stream of the game tonight, but they did not have it on MILB.TV. So there was no ability to watch Reyes' outing. But I cannot wait to watch him. Monday night, he will be in Peoria. 5 days later, they say that you can expect him in Springfield. And then 5 days after that, he'll be in Memphis. So the plan is every 5 days, he goes to a new minor league affiliate, ending in Memphis within 15 days. And then, can rejoin the team in as short as 19 days from today, I believe. So the excitement is there. I'm so excited for this guy, to see this guy in action again. But like you said, Brian, the thing is that to proceed with caution in a way as a fan,
Right.
because what we are going to see is, we're going to see Alex Reyes. We're going to see a guy who has yet to pitch a full season in the major leagues. You really can't even consider he hasn't even pitched a half a season in the major leagues. So he's going to be a rookie. And so, with that said, expectations are going to have to be, a little tempered, because not only is he a rookie, but he's also a rookie who is coming back from Tommy John surgery. So the expectations, while I'm excited and can't wait to see him in action, my expectations are going to be a little lower than, had he been healthy and, already pitched an entire year in the big leagues. So
right,
I'm not going to have these
happened. Yeah, which would have happened last year had he not gotten injured.
Right.
We'd be talking.
Exactly.
Of course, we'd be talking about a completely scenario here. But I think you're right. I think we absolutely have to temper our expectations. And as fans, it's a lot easier for us to get super excited about things and kind of say how we think things should go. But I think if one thing has proven itself here lately, at least to me as a fan and as someone who follows and writes about the team, I'm finding that we need to put a lot more faith and trust in the front office, because the more and more I spend time studying what they do and how they operate, they really do know what they're doing, and they're doing a phenomenal job of it. I mean, you talk about
Right.
you talk about Wainwright, for example. That was a trade to get a top prospect. Reyes was a result of the international scouting department, as was Carlos Martinez. I mean, so this front office has found ways to go out there and get these high-end prospects. And I've got to tip my hat to him. I think, John Mozeliak and the crew are just doing a phenomenal job. And I've always been one that's always second-guessed him and really haven't had a whole lot of faith in Mozeliak. But my opinion of him has greatly changed over the past couple of years. I've got a lot more faith in him and a lot more trust in him and the way that they're running the team.
Absolutely. And to kind of piggyback on what you're talking about on the international market, they have practically put their stamp on the pitching market in the Dominican Republic and Venezuela, these Latin American countries. They've practically put their stamp on. You've got Alex Reyes. Alex Reyes technically is Dominican, but he's also he's an American citizen. He was born in New Jersey. If you don't know the story, go look it up. There's interesting, Reyes went to live in the Dominican Republic in order to avoid the Major League Baseball draft. But Alex Reyes, you've got Alex Reyes, Carlos Martinez, even Oscar Taveras, as a position player, was of the international scouting department doing their job. Little known prospect, and I want to say he's in single A or short season ball. I can't remember where he is right now. Alvaro, I think it's Alvaro Sejas, was signed during the international scouting period, I believe, of 2015, so 3 years ago. He was signed. I think it'll be 3 years in June or July. But he's the next great pitching prospect in the organization to kind of work through. And the pitching, just as far as the scouting department in general, the pitching is phenomenal. You've got, I'm going to be working on something this coming week on the Cardinals depth. You've got Jordan Hicks. You've got Carlos Martinez, Luke Weaver, Jack Flaherty, Michael Wacha. You've got Dakota Hudson. You've got the two guys that they traded off, Sandy Alcantara and Zach Gallen. You have Brian Helsley. All of these guys are, fantastic prospects. Every organization in baseball would line up to take them from our hands. And the Cardinals keep churning these guys out. And it's absolutely amazing to see. And, it's one of those things where in a way, you're like, all right, well, can we start focusing on the position players? And I think we might have enough pitching now. But more and more, I think you see that you never have enough pitching. Look at the Mets. The Mets are kind of the same way as the Cardinals, is that they're in the process of stockpiling, pitching. They had Noah Syndergaard, they had Matt Harvey, Jacob DeGrom, uh, Zach Wheeler, Steven Matz. All of those guys are fantastic pitchers, except for now Matt Harvey. Matt Harvey has fallen off, and has had unfortunate injuries that have caused him to basically not be who he was when he first came up, and now left to his decline as a Met, and left to him leaving the Mets, and is now a Cincinnati Red. So you can never have enough good pitching, and the Cardinals know this better than anybody, in my opinion. You look at all of the injuries that Wainwright has had. You look at the up and downs of Michael Wacha. There's many examples out there to show you that you'll never have enough, and you always want to stockpile, and you always want to have these arms available. And right now, the Cardinals have arms available that unfortunately, are never going to make it as a St. Louis Cardinal long term. Who knows if Ryan Helsley will ever be a rotation member? Who knows the same for Dakota Hudson or Daniel Ponce de Leon? Those guys may never see the major leagues as a Cardinal. But like I said, you never have enough because Jack Flaherty and Luke Weaver and John Gant could all go down with Tommy John tomorrow, and the Cardinals would need one or two more guys. So, but the pitching will continue to be a thing that this team focuses on. Will continue to be their strong suit, and Alex Reyes is just an example of that. And again, I cannot wait to see the guy get after it in the majors. But again, temper those expectations. This is a guy who has struggled with command and control throughout his minor league career, and really has the potential to lock it all in, and I think he will eventually.
I
but
agree.
Moving on, those pesky Cardinals, my goodness, a sweep of the Chicago Cubs, including back-to-back walk-off wins. Unbelievable. I tell you what, I was watching the game on Sunday, and I felt defeated after that home run by Javi Baez. I thought, game over. This team is not going to show that they want to compete, and they're going to lose. They're going to lose a crucial opportunity to sweep. Gosh dang it, Mike Matheny. Why did you have to start Francisco Pena? And so, there was a lot of thoughts in my mind, and then Dexter Fowler comes up over 5 and hits it over Jason Hayward to win the game. And the elation I felt in that moment was almost on par with winning the World Series. But that series meant a lot to the team. Brian, what did you gather from that series?
Well, first of all, is there anything more beautiful than Dexter Fowler hitting a walk-off over Jason Hayward's head? I don't think so. I mean, it was great.
The rivalry. It's the best moment in the rivalry in recent years, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. At least on our end. I mean, I think the Cubs would say they have some better moments, but on our end, I love that moment. That's my favorite so far. But man, I tell you what, couple of takeaways from that series. One, man, this team just continues to fight and scrap. What's going on with the offense? They continue to let me down. But then when it comes time to do it, like when it really comes down to it, they fight. The pitching is keeping us in these games, and the offense is doing just enough to win. And, at the end of the day, you get the W on the board. Isn't that what matters?
Yep.
I'd like to see us not have to, rely on the walk-offs. And how about Colton Wong? I mean, man, you know what? Colton, I hope you're feeling better after getting those 3 Gatorade baths, especially since you missed giving one to someone else. So, you know, I think you got a little bit of payback for that one. But that was one thing. Another thing that I took away from this too was the post game interview with Colton. I don't know if you caught it or not, but he
Yeah.
said, "Hey, it was great to piss off some Cubs fans," and Cubs fans just got royally mad about that. You know what? Get mad, because that's exactly what Colton wanted to do, was make you mad. It's finally a good thing to see on this team some passion and some fight in these players. Like, not just this, subdued, because that's kind of Mike Matheny's, personality. He's kind of subdued, laid back, almost emotionless. I mean, it's like he's like the khaki pants of managers. You know what I mean? Just like, just plain and nothing there. And when it comes to his emotions, and just to see Wong come out and say, you know what? I'm glad I could piss those guys off. That's what we came here to do. That's what we want to do. To see the fight in this team when they know that it's important to the fans, not just important to the fans, but important, to the standings, to go out and fight and win these games, and to do it in walk-off fashion on back-to-back days. I mean, that's got to be demoralizing to the Cubs, and that's what we need to do. We need to demoralize them. We need to go out there and make them think, man, we might lose this game. We might not be able to beat this team. And in 5 games this year so far, we're 4-1 against the Cubs. That to me shows that this team is a lot better than any of the preseason pundits gave them credit for. They're a lot better even than I gave them credit for. I thought their pitching would keep up. I wasn't sure about the offense. Seemed to be proven so far about the offense, but somehow they keep managing to win. And you can't ask for a better weekend than that. Just a sweep of the Cubs and say, you know what? We're here to assert our dominance, something that they didn't do in Pittsburgh, got swept out of Pittsburgh, but then came back and swept the Cubs at home and said, no, we're not just going to lay down and roll over in this division. We're going to prove that we're here and we're here to stay. And if the team keeps fighting like that, this is going to be a great season, and Cardinal Nation is going to have a lot to cheer about, and we may even have some better moments than the ball sailing over Hayward's head.
Yeah, it was I 100% agree with you on every level. It was the statement series that this team needed. Now going out and losing 2 games to the Twins was horrid. And then the Cubs going and sweeping the Marlins was not good. So the Cubs gained 2.5 of the 3 games back right away. But, still a serious statement was made for sure. And I think it's, I think a lot of people have been saying, the Cardinals, they're not scared of the Cubs. And absolutely, you're right. They're not scared of the big dog. And
right.
It's kind of the way the Cubs were against the Cardinals in 2015. They weren't scared. They were here to fight for their stake in the division, and wrestled away from the Cardinals in the division series, and then never looked back through 2016 and 2017. Now the Cardinals have got to make that statement themselves and say, "Whoa, it's our division. Stop. Go away." And whether or not the team will do that this year, who knows? But it's definitely looking good for the future, because when you consider what's coming for the Cardinals, this team's going to be better. Going to be better than they are this year, going to be better than they were last year for sure. And so moving forward, I think this is a huge statement. And I thought winning the first game in Wrigley was a huge statement as well. They did not play well in Wrigley last year, won 1 game, and it was a game where the offense, I think, erupted for like 9 runs in 1 inning. And so they were in every single game against the Cubs last year, and they lost a good portion of them. And so to come out and sweep the Cubs in the first time that they come to your home park is phenomenal. And I think it sets a statement to the rest of the league that's saying, hey, we're here and we're serious. Now, the interesting thing about that Cubs series, and to go back and even into the White Sox series, it was like every time that the Cardinals had their backs up against the wall, what happened was is that you had a player who is struggling come through and perform. So the first game against the White Sox, after Carlos Martinez hit the home run, Dexter Fowler comes up with and hits a crucial 2-run home run for insurance. I believe that was the second game. Sorry, but the first game you had a home run by Carpenter, you had a double by Ozuna, and then Ozuna scored the winning run. And in the second game, you had the Carlos Martinez game where he hit the home run, but then Dexter Fowler had that crucial 2-run home run to go ahead and give us the insurance that we needed to win that game. And then the first game against the Cubs, Tommy Pham was all it was. Tommy Pham, and it was a Tommy Pham and Miles Michaelis show. Pham hit that 3-run home run in the was it the second inning?
I think it was the first inning. I think it was the first inning.
Great. 3-run home run. All the runs the Cardinals needed. Cubs made it close, but in the next two games were the walk-off games. You had Matt Carpenter with a crucial 2-run double in the game. You had Ozuna tying the game in the 9th inning, and then you had Colton Wong walking off the game in the 10th. All three of those players who have been struggling. Then the next game, you have Dexter Fowler hit the game-winning walk-off home run. All of these players have been struggling, and they all played a crucial part into getting better. And then Wong, again, with another well-hit ball that actually scored 2 runs in the game on Sunday night. So these guys who are struggling, yes, they're struggling hardcore, and we're going to talk about that. But they were the ones to come up big in the Cubs series, and that was really good to see. Now, seeing the entire offense just mail it in the Twins series was horrific. And as a pitching enthusiast, and I'm sure as you as a former pitcher, I think pitching doesn't get enough credit. The guy the Twins threw out on Monday night was phenomenal. The Cardinals couldn't touch him. And Jake Odorizzi is a guy that Cardinals fans have been clamoring for a long time. He's a St. Louis native. A lot of people have been clamoring for the Cardinals to go after him. He's a solid 3-4 starter. So it's not like the Cardinals were facing schmucks in the Twins series. But the Twins were a team that was scuffling and, on the ropes a bit, and the Cardinals had the chance to kind of establish more dominance on a team that's struggling and, show that the Cubs series wasn't a fluke. And unfortunately, the offense just did not help out. Matt Carpenter, Marcell Ozuna, Dexter Fowler, Colton Wong, all of these guys seem to be stuck in a funk. And it's just like every time they come up to bat, well, at least for Carpenter and Ozuna and Fowler, you're thinking, all right, this is going to be the at-bat that they just take off. Especially in my mind on Ozuna. I'm expecting this guy to just take off. And for whatever reason, they just cannot get it together. What is your observation on these guys, and what maybe they need to be doing, or what are they doing wrong?
It's kind of hard to say. Without digging into the data, I would have to look like just from the eye test. It looks like Ozuna is chasing a lot more pitches outside of the zone than he did last year. There's almost like a juxtaposition between him and DeYoung. I've watching the two of them. DeYoung is actually cutting down on his swinging strikes on pitches outside of the zone. He's used to be more prone to chase that fastball outside. I've seen him lay off more of those, and those are the pitches that Ozuna seems to be chasing. Um, and I don't know if he's pressing too hard, maybe trying to live up to the deal that brought him in. Um, or maybe it's just the pressure of being the guy now. I mean, because when you think about the team he played for last year, I mean, the Marlins offense wasn't, I mean, it wasn't really any joke. I mean, you're talking about Yelich, Ozuna, Stanton. I mean, Real Muto. I mean, they had a deep lineup, and so there was a lot of guys around him that really protected him and helped that out. Um, I think that's part of what Ozuna's struggles are now is there aren't those other bats around him that are really protecting him. Um, you've got Carpenter who's struggling. You've got Fowler who's struggling. You've got even DeYoung who's gone through his stretches of struggles and then seems to bounce back. But you don't have the consistency up and down the lineup to give him that protection. And that's what those big hitters need. I mean, even if you look at, we always talk about, Pujols was the last time we really had that big, middle of the order bat. But look at the guys that were around Pujols. You're talking about a Roland, an Edmonds, a Renteria. I mean, he had guys around him up and down the lineup that made that lineup deep enough to protect him where he could be that guy. And I think until the offense on the whole finds some consistency, I think you're going to see Ozuna continue to struggle because I don't think pitchers feel the need to come in and attack him. If they know they can stay away from him because the other guys aren't hitting, why should they come in and attack him? So it doesn't make any sense. If I'm a pitcher and I know that the rest of the lineup is struggling, I'm definitely not going to come anywhere near the plate on a guy like Ozuna. If I know that Carpenter isn't hitting well, I'm going to attack Carpenter. If I know that DeYoung is going to swing at an outside pitch, which he's cut down on, like I said this year, but if I know that he's going to do that, I'm going to pitch him outside, and I'm going to attack him. I'm going to attack Fowler. You attack the guys that are struggling and the guys that are doing well. You stay away from them. I mean, we saw this with Bonds and McGuire all the time. Pitchers would just walk them. They didn't want to get beat by him. And I think there's a part of that that's playing into it. And I think what's struggling why Ozuna is struggling is because rather than holding back and taking those walks, maybe in those situations, he's trying too hard to make something happen. And I don't know, maybe you're seeing something else as far as Ozuna goes, but that's kind of the picture that I get. And with Fowler, I mean, gosh, I don't know. I wish I knew the answer to that because he really kind of looks like the same guy that we've always seen. I wasn't huge on the Fowler signing to begin with. He's a good player, but I didn't think that. I mean, I didn't think the contract fit a player of his caliber. I wouldn't have put him in, the upper tier of outfielders. And so I'm not, me personally, I'm not surprised that Fowler is struggling, but the fact that he's struggling to this extent, I don't know, and I can't put a finger on it because to me, looking at his swing, he looks like the same guy. But out there in right field, I mean, he's playing good defense in right field, and that's really really helped. But I mean, offensively, for as much as the pitching has been consistent for this team, the offense has been inconsistent. And until the offense finds that consistency, we're going to, I think, continue to see these series where we go and we play hard and we sweep, the Cubs, and then we go out the next series and get swept at home. Until the offense can become more consistent, I don't think that we're going to see this team reach its full potential. And for Ozuna's sake, I really hope that the other guys in the order start getting it together because he's just got no protection. And it's not like he's not getting things done. I mean, you look at his RBI totals for the season. I mean, he's driving in runs, but he's not getting really good pitches to hit. And I think it's a product of the rest of the lineup being so inconsistent.
Well, and he's so prone to chase right now. So I I understand the thought process on that he's not getting the pitches to hit, but there's no reason for him to get pitches to hit right now. He's
Right.
not showing that he has the ability to lay off anything on the outside of the plate, and it from what I gather, and I'm just gathering from a couple of at bats, and he almost seems giddy in a way, like here comes the pitch, I want to swing it right away. Almost in a way like I will admit that when I play MLB The Show, that I wouldn't say I'm a button masher, but I like to hit the X button. Like I want to get through the cut scene and I want to get the pitch to me right as soon as possible. And generally, I swing first pitch a lot just because I'm ready to hit. I'm ready to get it done. So I understand where he's coming from because like I am watching him and I'm watching the pitcher. The catcher's always setting up outside. They throw the ball to the outside and he pulls off. And no matter if it's a fastball, a slider, a curveball, a changeup, no matter what it is, he's trying to pull off the ball on the outside every single time. Instead of going with the pitch, he is trying to pull off, and he's just looks terrible when he swings and misses. The slider on down and away is just easy to get him out that way. And like I said, he's just not giving pitchers any reason to give him anything good to hit because he's swinging at everything. He's not walking. He's not taking pitches. He's not working a count more often than not. And so it's almost like he needs to take a page out of Paul DeYoung's book. Paul DeYoung has transformed himself over the last couple of weeks. We were talking 2 weeks ago about DeYoung and giving Eric a hard time about how he's swinging and missing and striking out all over the place and not making the contact that we need out of him right now. And now DeYoung is starting to take pitches and he's starting to walk more. He's starting to become a better hitter and a better batter in a sense that he's got a better eye for the ball now. And so it's like Ozuna needs to calm down. Mike Matheny even said in something else, I think it was something I read from the Post-Dispatch or something like that, that Ozuna is just trying to hit the 5-run home run. Like every single time he's up there trying to hit a 5-run home run. And so Ozuna is just way too amped, and he's just the kind of guy he is. You could just see it, and when he gets a single, he's excited. He's got a single, and loves to do the little motion to the bench. And so it's not that I don't love the emotion; it's that I can see that as he wants to do well for this team, he just has a tendency to want that instant gratification of hitting a home run on every single pitch that he sees. And so that is what I see out of him. Now, Carpenter, I don't know. I really want to dig into Chris Green, a writer for our site, has a post that's about to be put up here pretty soon, and I need to dig into it and get it up for tomorrow. And I'm really interested to see what Chris has come up with. A lot of StatCast data has shown that Carpenter is not necessarily trying to hit into the shift a whole lot, or a product of just constantly hitting into the shift, but it's that he's been fairly unlucky. I thought in the first series against the Cubs, I was like, oh man, this guy's primed for takeoff now. He's hit so many balls hard, hit them in the shift or hit it to the wall and it just didn't go out, all these other things. And so I just was thinking, all right, here we go. This next series, Carpenter's going to go off, and it hasn't happened. I wouldn't say that he's not being patient, but in a way he's being Matt Carpenter and sometimes being too patient. Not being aggressive enough when a pitch is a strike and he can do something with it. Trying to work the count. And trust me, I love hitters who can work the count, but sometimes he's got to be that dangerous hitter that we know that he can be. One of the things that he started to do a little better that I have noticed just in the eye test, but I've noticed him start to go the other way more often now, which is a good thing. That's when you know Matt Carpenter is doing well. That's when you know any hitter is doing well, when they're going the other way with authority, and it's not just a lazy fly ball to the left fielder.
Right.
So him going the other way for extra bases, a home run, whatever it is going to be the key for him to get right. And I think he's so used to the swing change that he's had the past couple of years that he's trying to do two things. He's trying to be successful, and he's also trying to mold himself into a different hitter again. And so I think he's caught in some kind of quandary that he's not really sure on about what kind of hitter that he wants to be. And so I really want to dig into these. I'm not.
Yeah, I was going to say
which angle.
On Carpenter, one of the things I've noticed, and I think you were the first one who actually brought this to my attention, Stephen. But if you look at it, like if you do a side by side, we're talking about the eye test here. If you do a side by side of Carpenter in 2014 and Carpenter now, he's a lot more closed off when his bat's coming across the plate. His hips aren't opening up as much, and so to me, what that says is, one, he's not getting his hips around, so he's not getting the same bat speed coming through the zone, and two, he's not getting that full extension that he would get on his arms if his hips were all the way around. So he's not getting the bat speed and he's not getting full extension, and he may still be hitting the ball hard, but he's not hitting the ball with authority and control, putting it where he wants to put it. And I think that's maybe it's because of this reworking of the swing that's caused him to kind of close off a little bit when he's coming around on the ball. But if you look at it, his hips look a lot more closed off. It doesn't look like he's really opening up. So it makes his swing look really unbalanced, like he's not really in a good hitting position when the bat meets the ball. I'm no hitting coach, and I was a terrible hitter myself, worse than John Mabry. But, just me looking at it, that's what I'm seeing. And if he can't get around on the ball with any kind of authority and can't get extended, Matt Carpenter, before, he sold out for the home run, I mean, he was a put the ball to all fields, hit doubles all over the place kind of a guy. And if you can't get around and get that extension, you're not going to get those doubles. Those, that contact that you would make that would normally get you a double is not going to give you that kind of contact, and it's going to end up being the lazy pop fly to shallow left field when you're trying to go the other way. And so he's got to find some way to get that extension back, and maybe make a change, opening his hips up a little more. But again, that's something that the hitting coaches are going to have to see.
Now on Fowler, I really don't know. I haven't really dug into his numbers a whole lot. I know that he's a notorious slow starter, and I kind of agree with you. I wasn't too crazy about the contract. I wasn't too crazy about signing him. But the Cardinals had to do something. They didn't know Tommy Pham was going to do what he did last year. They knew that they needed a center fielder. I thought that they could have been fine with the internal options, but how fans hate the internal options sometimes. I would have loved to have given the job to Bader last year and seen what he could do. But nevertheless, we have Dexter Fowler. And so, I like Fowler a lot, and I think he's a great character guy for the team. But, I almost wonder if he, like Ozuna, is trying to do too much and trying to kind of, be the guy that leads this team, in homers or, hits or whatever. And so it's like these guys like Carpenter and Fowler who generally know their way around the strike zone and know how to manage the strike zone when they're up to the plate. for whatever reason, aren't the results that they're used to. And so it's gonna have to change. It's gonna have to get better because they're not gonna win the division with the offense the way it is right now.
Right.
And there's gonna have to be some wholesale changes. If we're sitting here in the middle of with Matt Carpenter, Dexter Fowler, and Marcell Ozuna still hitting below the Mendoza line, we're going to see some pretty hard and fast changes, and this team is not going to be as successful as it is right now. Even though they're doing so well right now, but they're not going to be this great if they continue to have these offensive struggles. Now it's good to see guys like DeYoung get better and start to change themselves a little bit. But one of the best hitters for the St. Louis Cardinals this year so far has been Yadier Molina, and guess what? He's out for or more. So, terrible accident, and I feel for the guy. So, this Cardinals offense is going to have to put up or shut up. And so, looking forward,
I was going to say, especially when you talk about a guy like Carlos, who last game pitched. I mean, he went out and you went 5 innings, only got 2 Ks and gave up 3 walks, but he only gave up 2 runs. I mean, you got your ace out there only giving up 2 runs, and you can't support him. That's not a recipe for success.
Right. But
sorry,
forward,
Steve. Go ahead. I think I interrupted you on that one. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. Moving forward, we got the Padres series coming up. We got 4 games in San Diego starting tomorrow night. So we are going to be on the 9 o'clock game schedule, which is very unfortunate because on my days off, I value my sleep, and so unfortunately, I probably won't watch, but maybe one half or 3/4 of a game, maybe, just because those are late nights for me. But looking forward, got San Diego, team in last place in the NL West right now. I believe it's 13-25 was their record. Not quite as bad as the Reds, but they are not good. And they're a team that's in a rebuilding phase, just like a lot of other teams in the league right now. And they are bad. And so this is an opportunity to just beat up on a bad team. This is an opportunity to feast on maybe some pitchers who aren't as good or who aren't as having good seasons right now. And so maybe this is the series that gets the offense going. Maybe Ozuna, Fowler, or Carpenter all have a fantastic season, fantastic series. One can hope. Intrigue level, though, on Sunday. Sunday will be Adam Wainwright's spot in the rotation. And whether or not Adam Wainwright gets the call, I'm not sure. I was listening to the radio this morning, and I believe it was Kevin Wheeler's show, and he said they played a Mike Matheny interview where Mike Matheny was really unsure on whether or not Wainwright was coming back as a starter or in the bullpen. It really wouldn't commit either way, which is odd considering Mike Matheny is is probably Adam Wainwright's biggest fan and biggest supporter. So it was really odd to hear him not say, "Oh yeah, Adam's coming back and he'll reinsert his way into the rotation. As an anchor of our rotation, it's going to be key for him to be going right." The typical Mike Matheny thing to say regarding Adam Wainwright. But there was I don't know. Adam Wainwright said something about them being very hush hush after his start in Springfield. So maybe the team saw something. Velocity may have been down or something of that nature. So I'm not sure. I tell you what, man, this is really painful. seeing Adam Wainwright's career go this way. Um, like I touched on earlier, um, man, this guy had the potential for a Hall of Fame career, and it really sucks to see his career go down this way. And I'm really hoping that he comes back and is at least productive in a way.
Right.
And it really is unfortunate to see his career go this way.
Yeah, it's tough. I think he'll be a Cardinals Hall of Famer for sure. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But yeah, you're talking about a guy who very well should be a Hall of Famer. You know, if he has a couple more, like you said, solid seasons in his prime, I think we're easily talking about a Hall of Famer. And I think Joe Trezza of MLB.com reported that Wainwright's supposed to have a bullpen session tomorrow, and then after that, they're going to decide what they want to do with him. I think Trezza reported that ideally they wanted him to have one more rehab start, but I guess they're going to reevaluate it after his bullpen on Thursday. Again, I mean, like you said, this is just. I mean, I hate to just throw out the word tragic, but when you talk about a guy with just the talent, the competitive nature, and just not a much better guy in the game than Adam Wainwright, to see his career kind of winding down like this, it's sad. It's sad because he's been my favorite Cardinal for a long time, and will always be, one of my favorite Cardinals. I mean, one of my top 5 favorite moments in Cardinal history is the Beltran curveball. I mean, I can still see it in my mind. And, I hate to see him go out like this. And I'm always going to put my support behind him. And if he thinks he can go out there and he thinks he can pitch, if it's me, I'm going to say let him pitch. I think he's earned it. I think he deserves it. And, at the end of the day, there's only one guy that can decide whether or not Adam Wainwright has what's left to do it at this level, and that's Adam Wainwright. And again, like I said, I think he's earned that right, and I think he deserves to go out on his own terms and to not be pigeonholed into one thing or another. I think he could prolong his career out of the bullpen if he wanted to. But it's obvious this guy wants to start. He wants to compete, and he wants to win. The time will tell whether or not he's going to be able to do that. But I definitely think that he deserves to decide that on his own terms, and come to grips with whatever the decision is when he's ready to do it.
It's very interesting to me to see the team kind of take this this non-committal stance at this point in time. We are a little under 3 weeks away from the potential return of Alex Reyes. And so it's really interesting to me to see the non-committal approach. And it's also interesting to me in that same light, thinking of it and in the view that Alex Reyes may return to this team in the rotation, that John Gant was the option to be the starter in his place instead of keeping Flaherty. If they knew that Wainwright was going to be out more than just one start, interesting to me that they used Gant there instead of making Flaherty kind of the mainstay in that role. So it's very interesting considering what we know. There's also I've seen on Twitter there's some people saying that's actually Sunday is Carlos's normal day of rest, so he could be the pitcher in that game instead of Gant or whoever they decide to shuffle up. So we shall know obviously tomorrow. You said he's got a bullpen tomorrow, so we'll know tomorrow what's going down. Interesting that originally it was supposed to just be no, he's going down for 10 days, just going to let it heal, and, just going to miss a start. And now it's been 2 starts, and it might be, well, 3 starts, I think, technically. And so now you're talking about potential 4th start. And so it's progressively a little worse each time. Now, apparently he looked really good in Springfield, so who knows? It's
Yeah.
double A.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, because that news came out. Wayno went on the DL, like an hour before the Bloggers Day event. And at that event, John Mozeliak said that it was, just elbow inflammation. He could have pitched through it if he wanted to, but they decided to be, cautious with it and just go ahead and put him on the DL and let him rest. Then that turned into, well, now he's going down to make some rehab starts. Now it's, well, we're going to have him throw trying to assess whether or not that elbow is going to be able to hold up to a full season. I mean, he's 36 years old. For a pitcher, that's old. And you're talking about a guy who's already had Tommy John surgery. Maybe there's something else going on with that elbow, especially when you talk about elbow inflammation. I mean, that's anytime I hear elbow inflammation on a pitcher, I immediately think, oh my gosh, I hope this guy doesn't need Tommy John surgery. I don't think that's what's going on with Wayno, but there's definitely something more going on in that elbow than just it's inflamed. Otherwise, they wouldn't be this cautious with him.
Right.
And especially, like you said, with the potential of Alex Reyes coming back here really soon, what's going on with Wayno's elbow? Is there more that they're not telling us, or is it simply just elbow inflammation that's taking an older elbow longer to get over? I don't know, but like you said, it is very interesting, and I'd like to see after the bullpen session tomorrow what information they release to the public to let us know what is actually going on with Wayno's elbow.
Yeah, it's intriguing, interesting. It's going to be something to keep an eye on. Tomorrow we should see some information. I think that's about it for the night. Want to keep it light and not take up all the night. So appreciate you guys listening. Do make sure that you do subscribe. Still waiting on those 100 subscribers and 1,000 followers on Twitter so that we can give you a lucky fan tickets to a upcoming St. Louis Cardinals game. Go ahead and do that. If you haven't gone to our website, go to stlhattrick.com. We got a lot of awesome stuff on there. Most recently, Brian and I both got some stuff up there. Brian, a little bit of April review. I have a very thought-provoking review of Avengers: Infinity War. Fantastic movie. If you haven't gone to go see it yet, please do. It is a great movie. We are sitting at, let's see, it's the 9th. We have a little less than, about 2 weeks from tomorrow will be Solo. Cannot wait for that. Keep your eyes peeled there. On the website, we've got an awesome thing that I took some time and made some St. Louis Cardinals lock screens and put some STL hat trick flair. Got some Marvel characters, some Solo characters, and even Deadpool. For you Deadpool fans, Deadpool 2 coming out next week, I do believe. So another good movie to go out and see. Get you a Movie Pass subscription and go have fun. But a lot of awesome things coming up. Got a Matt Carpenter piece dropping tomorrow. Hopefully got a couple more pieces coming up for the weekend. We thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We appreciate it. As always, subscribe and follow, and keep checking us. Thanks, guys.